Factbox What's In, and What's Out, of the U.S. Senate's Gun Safety Framework. A bipartisan organization of U.S. senators said on Sunday that they had reached a settlement on a framework for gun protection law, probably the primary full-size new U.S. gun law in decades, following a string of latest high-profile mass shootings. Below are some highlights of what is and what isn't covered through the settlement, in keeping with a declaration from the group of lawmakers that consists of 10 Republicans, sufficient to conquer the Senate's filibuster rule. In state crisis intervention support, the idea would offer sources to states and Native American tribes to create and administer red flag measures meant to ensure guns are saved out of the palms of people whom a courtroom has decided to be an enormous hazard to themselves or others. These measures would be regular with country and federal due system and constitutional protections. Out. ASSAULTWEAPONS ban. During an impassioned June 2 speech, Democratic President Joe Biden urged Congress to reimpose the federal ban on assault weapons that expired in 2004, which prohibited the manufacture, switch and possession of semi-automatic assault guns and the switch and possession of large-capacity ammunition feeding devices. That measure faces staunch competition from Republicans in Congress and is not in the framework agreement launched on Sunday. In enhanced review process for buyers under 21, the framework calls for an investigative period to study the juvenile criminal and intellectual fitness facts for gun consumers underneath 21 years of age. This would encompass tests with state databases and nearby regulation enforcement. Out. Higher age requirement to buy semi-automatic rifles. The thought does no longer include a provision to elevate the age for buying a semi-automatic rifle to 21 national. Currently the minimum age to buy is 18. Federal law already prohibits all of us more youthful than 21 legally buying a handgun. In penalties for straw purchases, if surpassed, the brand new law would crack down on criminals who illegally straw buy and cite visitors' guns. A straw purchase happens whilst someone buys a weapon for a person who is not legally allowed to buy one. Out. Federal background check expansion. The framework does no longer include proposals to make bigger federal heritage tests to shop for a weapon from 3 to 10 days. It also does no longer close a loophole in federal law that lets in many income over the internet and at gun indicates to head unchecked. In mental health services, telehealth investments. The notion might make bigger network behavioral hospital fashions and makes investments to growth intellectual health and suicide prevention software get right of entry to. It also might assist fund crisis and trauma intervention and recovery services and makes investments in programs that growth get admission to mental and behavioral health offerings for youth and families in crisis via telehealth. Out. Repeal of liability shield. The proposed framework makes no point out of amending or repealing a federal legal responsibility shield that protects gun manufacturers from being sued for violence executed via humans sporting, and taking pictures, their guns. In clarification on definition of licensed dealer. The framework could additionally clarify the definition of a federally licensed firearms supplier and crack down on criminals who illegally prevent licensing requirements. In protections for domestic violence victims. Those who are convicted of home violence crimes and face domestic violence restraining orders might be situation to crook historical past tests for gun purchases underneath the thought. In SCHOOLBASED mental health and support services funding. The proposed framework calls for funding to expand intellectual health and supportive offerings in schools, together with early identification and intervention programs. In school safety resource funding. Under the thought, federal budget could go to packages that assist primary and secondary colleges create safety measures, assist school violence prevention efforts and offer schooling to school employees and students.